let's transition. Speaking of positions right here, as we're on the Man of Steel podcast, we're with your host, Charles Barnes Ritchie. I can follow once again on Twitter at Man of Steel CGR and on Instagram, Man of Steel Nation. Joe Haden right now, who actually just last signed his contract extension 2 years ago. Coincidentally, same time frame like Cam Hayward, a week before the season, signed a 2-year extension. But as Ed Bouchette, the senior writer of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who writes for the Athletic, did point out that they don't do 2-year extensions, just did a brand new 3-year contract for Joe Haden right now as we look at it. And Joe Haden, who right now, of course, is in compliance, wants to wait to see what happens with TJ Watt as far as like his deal. And hopefully he can get something too, because Joe Haden right now, he is the second highest player on this team at $15.5 million right now. He's on the final year of his deal right now. That's his cap number for this year. He's earning a base salary of $7 million and is collecting an $8.5 million of a signing bonus of $6.668 million. So, I mean, right now, Joe Haden, in regards to playing in his 12th training camp, asked how it felt, I mean, for this year going into it right now, who has been drafted in 2010, first round, 7th overall pick for the former 3-time Pro Bowler. Ask him how it feels to be playing in his 12th training camp, because we have a lot of young dudes in the room. The coaching staff treats me like a vet, because just a level football. We have a great young defense, and I still feel like I am playing at a very high level. Until my body starts breaking down and when I can't run and I can't keep up with guys, that's the biggest thing. The speed kind of shuts down, but I feel the same as I probably do last year. He was also being asked, too, in regards to how long he wants to play. And he was doing this interview, I believe, with Mark Cabali of The Athletic. He said he wants to play versus how long, as far as like how long he wants to play versus how long he can play. He had this to say, as once I am done as a CB1, at worst, a quarterback 2, if there is another good starter like me and Cam right now, once I can't become an outside starting guy is when it is my time. He was also asked, too, about being the voice in the locker room. When I first got there, there was William Gay, Mike Mitchell, and Rob Golden. There's some other guys in the room. Right now, I feel like I am definitely the main voice, but you got Mika Fitzpatrick, too. He keeps me young because he's in his prime. I see him where I was 6 years ago in my career, as young, healthy, fresh, and ready to go. And he's just so good at it. I definitely think it can make sense right now. But like I said, we got the biggest thing holding things up right now is TJ Watt getting his money taken care of right now. I mean, until that, and then you also got Mika Fitzpatrick right now, too. But the good thing about Mika Fitzpatrick, I mean, when you also look at it on this team, I mean, as far as Mika goes, he's still got one more year left to go on his rookie deal. He's got his 5th-year option picked up by the Steelers, which will account for $10.612 million on the cap. That is all guaranteed right now. And his guaranteed salary of over $16.5 million. I mean, in his 4 years, I mean, with the Steelers right now. And of course, one with the Dolphins. But, I mean, those are key cornerstone pieces you want to hang on to. And I tell you what, once you start digging a little deeper, life beyond Ben Roethlisberger, you definitely do have to think about right now as far as keeping this defense intact. Because I tell you what, I would not mind holding on to Joe Haden for a little bit more. I mean, he is going to be, let's see, he already turned 32 right now. So if you keep him around for maybe another 3 more years, you're talking about keeping him around till like 35 years old. I mean, basically. I mean, which is not too bad. And I'm trying to think who was like the oldest Steelers corner in history right here when you think about it. I mean, you also had a guy like Rob Woodson, too. I mean, he was 31 years old before he moved on to greener pastures with the 49ers, and eventually the Ravens and Raiders, where he won his only Super Bowl back in Super Bowl 35. But then also, too, another guy, too, you could also look at, too. Let's see. I mean, who Bill Cowher coach, Carnell Lake. I mean, he played at 31 years old. I'm basically trying to find out who the Steelers' oldest corner is, but I mean, why not? I think if it makes sense, and if he's still playing at a decent, I mean, contributable level, I have no argument keeping him. I mean, if you can't replace the guy, then move on. I mean, Mel Blount, I mean, his final year with the Steelers, he was 35 years old. So you'd be talking about like that territory right there for a guy like Joe Haden, if you ask me. And I tell you what, he's worth every penny right now. But again, first things first, with this money, I think it will make sense that they can get something done next year. But that's why I think it's the emphasis right now for TJ Watt, because the thing is, too, as Wesley Euler reminded me, too, let's just say if TJ Watt does ball out once again this year, as we anticipate he will, but he does win Defensive Player of the Year, you got to imagine the contract demands that value for what him and his agent are seeking. That's only going to go up even more. I mean, yes, the Steelers should have a lot of projected money. I mean, back in, like, say, 2022, their cap space, they're projected to have like about $63.6 million we look at for the time being right now, with a $208.2 million league minimum cap. That'll be the highest in the league. Think about that for a second. Since when did the Steelers ever lead the pack as far as salary cap space? We still got a lot of moving parts to get there for right now. Now, remember, this was supposed to be the deal that was supposed to be back, I think, in 2020 until it took a significant drop this year. So I gotta believe that would be possible. Then too, I mean, if Ben Roethlisberger still proves he could still pull his weight, have a legit solid year, who knows? I mean, he may have an extension. I mean, maybe 1 year. I'm not sure if they go 3 years on a 4-year-old quarterback, but I think they could extend him for another year. Why not? I mean, I mean, until we see proven otherwise from guys like Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins right now. I mean, listen, I always said that 2019 was a rehearsal. I mean, we got a glimpse to see what Mike Tomlin could do. Until we see proven otherwise from guys without Roethlisberger in 2019, but that's not good enough for me. I want to see it beyond multiple seasons. Because remember, if they don't have the takeaways that they did, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, this team right here, remember in 2018, they only had 15 takeaways, which was 8 interceptions and 7 fumble recoveries, versus in 2019, that number more than significantly doubled. 38 takeaways for the year, 20 interceptions, 18 fumble recoveries. If after those takeaways right there, I would dare argue that the Steelers under Mike Tomlin will have been his first losing season. And that's where I have a little more cause for pause, especially without Steven Nelson. Listen, you're rolling the dice on the guy like Cam Sutton right now, who I still feel like has got to go out there and prove his worth. Let's still wait and see on that, if you ask me, for right now. And also some other questions right now as far as to Cam Sutton being a number one. Speaking of Cam Sutton, Joe Haden said that he thinks Cam is on pace for a number one corner. He is just trying to prove himself to the coaches and everybody else that he could play outside corner for an entire season. It was a little different game as being outside. There was also the term loaf chart, which I'm sure playing corners in this league will relate to, especially Joe Haden. He says that it's a change of speed thing. Say the ball is thrown on the other side of the field, you have to be the guy absolutely running. If you're opposite field, you have to take off running at winner's angle. I'm not saying you have to go over and make the tackle, but you have to take off, but you have to work your pursuit angle. You can't be sitting there and looking and then going back to the huddle. And he said, where did that start from? Well, the loaf chart began when he was with the Browns. They had a loafing system. He says, you don't want to see that on tape, Art. He says that their defensive line had been doing that for a while, too. He also said he knows Cam Hayward and the rest do it with their pass rushers. You see them turn around and just take off. Maybe not run to the ball, but always showing the pursuit of getting there. He was also asked, too, is Fawcett on the defense as a whole? I think he had the potential to be good. I mean, obviously pulling out, Bud Free being the number one loss, but he definitely has a lot of optimism in Alex Highsmith and Melvin Ingram to perform. He's not saying that they have to do what Bud did, but the talent in the position is good. And he also did say getting Devin Bush back is huge and is going to be big. Robert Spillane, we don't think he was going to be able to do what he did last year, and he came out of the blue. Hopefully, he could come out of the blue again. Mika's Mika. Tyrell Evans is in the last year of his career, and he has a lot of things to prove. And once again, on the last year of Joe Haden's deal, he had this to say, I would rather have a contract for more in this year because I want to end my career here. We'll see what happens, but we got to get TJ Watt signed first. As I mentioned earlier, obviously, he is the main priority. And we'll see. But because don't forget, too, with the cap space, don't forget, you also got to add the factor, too, of the TV deal right now that the league got. So let's keep an eye on all that stuff right now. Now let's go ahead and segue into right now with the offensive line right now. As we looked at Kevin Dotson, he was questioned as being finally ready to lay it on the line versus the Eagles. He missed the first 2+ weeks of the camp with an ankle injury and returned last weekend. Dotson didn't move right into the starting lineup. He was placed in the second-team unit behind Rashad Coward in the offseason as a free agent from the Bears, for whom he appeared in 30 career games. 50 of them starts. Mike Tomlin, prior to the Eagles game, he said he's done nothing to earn first-team reps. Tomlin commented on Dotson when asked why he was with the second unit when he returned despite being atop the depth chart at left guard. He says, what are we talking about? He's a second-year guy that hadn't worked. Dotson, he did start 4 games as rookie. Tomlin's point, he hadn't practiced ground training camp until recently. Tomlin's message to the second-year player is clear. You've got to earn it. And don't forget, too, Tajon Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, he was one of the very first to point out, too. Remember, he came in with a little bit more body mass as far as to trimming down a little bit more. To help, accommodate this run blocking offense where they want to pitch out a little bit more, have some more blocks on the outside, some sweeping blocks. And maybe that was just part of it right there, too. And why he was hardly participating. Maybe because of his shape. He was on the field with the second-team unit in the game with left tackle Chooks Corfer, and Turner was expected to start with the first team along with Coward. But when you look at it, too, for that game, as a whole, Steelers' offensive line only allowing 1 sack right there. And then you also saw in that game, too, let's look at it. As far as, the rushing right there, I think did a tremendous job in that versus the Eagles. 152 yards rushing. Averaging 3.6 yards per rush off of 42 rushing attempts. They outgained the Eagles by 100 yards. I think mission accomplished versus the Eagles game. You got to be very encouraged right there. Yeah, it's a lot of bench players, but I tell you what, people are still continuing to hold their breath right now. Of course, Najee Harris being asked to be that guy, and which he's been impressing so far in training camp, practice battles, now in the preseason. I gotta be very enthused, to be honest, yeah. Because when you also look at the previous game too, I mean, versus the Dallas Cowboys, the Hall of Fame game in there. I mean, let's take a look at that one more time too. Rushing in that game, they only had 76 yards. I mean, in that game, I mean, only 2.5 yards per rush. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, if anything, that was like what, like almost like close to 8 yard difference about. I mean, the next game, I think you've got to be impressed with that because also in the game too, once again, only one sack allowed, 2 sacks in each game, and I gotta tell you, because with Ben Roethlisberger's foul year, I really felt like protecting Ben Roethlisberger be just as important. Pretty much when you got a brand new offensive line, I'm really gotta be encouraged right now. The only thing I will say right now has been Kendrick Green right now. I mean, for the most part, I mean, had a few like bad. I mean, like fumbles right now when you look at it. And I think that was on the shotgun play that Mason Rudolph was trying to do the Claypool. He was going to try to do a play of the Claypool. That got fumbled right there, and it was ended up being recovered by the Dallas Cowboys linebacker Micah Parsons in that game. So I think that's the only other thing right there. The production's good, but that centerpiece right now, it looks like for right now, it's going to probably be J.C. Hassenauer, who looks like he's going to be taking care of it. I mean, he's the number one guy right now. Then you got Kendrick Green and B.J. Finney right now. Seeing B.J. Finney, who once again a couple of years ago, specifically remembered for fumbling the ball right there with Mason Rudolph or fell right into him. He hurt his shoulder and he was gone for the rest of the season, despite only having one more game. I think, if anything, that's the only other thing we cannot walk out of the woods just yet on because, I mean, your center is like your catcher in football. I mean, pretty much just as much your leader helping call out the plays. I mean, getting good rhythm right there, trying to set yourself up for nice performances. And that's all. And I think, if anything, too, I mean, like I told Arthur Motes, too, calling in on his show a couple weeks ago. I mean, Banner, too. He's another guy who's got to prove himself. He's coming off a torn ACL from the very first game versus the Giants. Yet the Steelers give him a 2-year extension. I don't know. But at the same time, he's got the right hunger, the right attitude. I mean, you have veteran Joe Hag, who got the start there. And to be honest with you, I want to see more availability from these guys. And that's where we got to pay a little bit more attention. Don't let that fool us right now. And I really think if you continue to have these guys right there being available and staying healthy, I think health, especially at this offensive line, is be very vital to affecting consistent, solid run blocking, protecting Ben Roethlisberger, or if he gets subbed in, I mean, just from injury or whatever, which I doubt would be the case. I mean, Mike Tannenbaum, I don't know. I don't believe like a lot of you guys are right there about him being benched midway into the season or whatever. I mean, his time will be up. I don't think so, but you gotta make sure whoever's quarterbacking there that these guys are available every Sunday throughout the season. Let's go ahead and get in the fair or foul right now. Again, right now, TJ Watt. Will he get a new contract? According to Andrew Filipoli, 93.7 The Fan, TJ is looking for $100 million in guaranteed money based on Myles Garrett and Joey Bosa's deals. Remember, just to give you a heads up, the top guaranteed money right now is Joey Bosa with $78 million. He leads that pack, followed by $60 million of Khalil Mack of the Bears, $50 million piece by Trey Flowers of the Lions, Myles Garrett of the Browns, and $48 million of DeMarcus Lawrence right now. I'm going to say fair. He will get a new deal done. If anything, I'm not having real optimism anything's going to get done right now. But like they did, the last, 2 or 3 seasons right now. Last 2 straight years with Joe Haden, Cam Hayward. Yeah, I gotta believe they're gonna find a way to ink this guy. The only problem is, like I said, the Steelers, they do not like to guarantee contracts. But you also had Ed Bouchette too, who's answering a question right now, who said he wrote an entire piece regarding that scenario. He said that Watt deserves to be paid at the top. He did say he would be surprised if he accepted less, given his production. His production has passed others who are paid at the top of the group. The Steelers can guarantee the entire contract that they want. It will have no effect on the salary cap. Simply because he is on the books for $10 million this year, a new contract should have little change to this year's cap. And the cap is expected to explode in the coming years. And no, they won't extend Fitzpatrick's contract because now that they picked up his 5th-year option, he's down for 2022. So if anything, that should put a little bit people at ease right now. But even if it does go up, I don't think that'd be a problem right now. And if they had to hold off, I don't think it'd be the end-all, be-all catastrophes if they do decide to wait. I think the biggest thing that's helping TJ Watt's cause, like I said, it's not like he's separating from his teammates. He's still there on the sidelines. He just wasn't practicing in team drills, but that kind of changed within the last few days when Mike Tomlin had approached him a little bit and just basically saying the process will play itself out. So it's not like he's distancing himself from his team. I think that's one thing that's in his favor right now to get a new deal done, is that he's still out there. Of course, you can't blame a guy like TJ Watt right now who wants to make sure he keeps his body fresh and in the right position possible. Last thing you want to do is do something, hurt yourself, that affects your chances of getting inked long term. If anything, I think Watt and the Steelers do strike a deal. It will be sooner rather than later, but I'm predicting it'll be Labor Day weekend. If anything, that should be the moment when it gets done, and then they could kick off their season in peace right there. And speaking of kicking off, we're going to call this podcast to a close right now. And once again, thank you for those of you tuning in on this live stream podcast. Once again, you guys can follow me on social media, on Twitter, at MassSteelCGR, and on Instagram, at MassSteelNation, as we'll be continuing to keep it here right now for more of your Steelers preseason coverage. I know I've been bouncing around this year, especially the last few months. Still trying to figure out like a consistent schedule here, but things will be changing a little bit soon. But anyway, just thank you for the support nonetheless. And like I said, until this COVID process continues to play out, just please be safe around each other, be smart around each other, and just support one another as best we can. And like I said, if anything, we just have to be more careful. I'll just put it to you this way. Dealing with COVID, I would treat it like the same concept as if you're going to a public restroom. How would you handle a public restroom when you got to sit down and you got to have that kind of break? That's how we got to look at COVID in a way, in my opinion. We got to treat it with the same precaution, make sure we're not spreading germs around each other, but just interact, do what we got to do, and just respect each other's space. I think things will be fine. This thing is going to come in many different forms, like it or not, for the time being. But for right now, prayers, love, and respect to all your families, friends, and loved ones right now as we continue to move things along. As always, leave it. Don't be trolling. Be rolling. Here we go. Here we go. Hang on.